Let's go.
Hello, good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Star Trek episode review. I am Majo Rage, and we are here tonight talking about Lower Deck Season 4, Episode 8. I'm going to be joined by my usual Trekkie in arms, cousin Cheeto, shortly. But for right now, already in the house is Cadet Zam. How are you this evening, sir?
Fine, thank you. A little bit light in the wallet with what I've been going through this last week, but I'm ready to go talking about some lower D's.
Man, replacing an appliance, we should have set up a tip jar or something.
I was okay, I can live.
Uh, so we're talking about this episode called Caves, a kind of a fun anthology episode framed while within a cave mission our crew gets trapped in, during which they talk about other missions where they were trapped in caves. Um, I figure we'll break this one down by plot runners and the different stories in the anthology. But first, we'll do like general impressions. What were your overall thoughts on this episode this week, Sam?
Well, for a start, it was nice that we didn't necessarily have that cold opening with the alien killing aliens thing, which was
Yes.
a nice alternative. But this was probably one of those more heartwarming episodes,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean.
I did.
And
Yeah.
and it was nice. I think this is a heartwarming episode because I think we're close to this is like the calm before the storm because I think with episode 9 and 10 coming, which might be a two-parter, I think shit's gonna hit the fan big
Ag-
time.
Agreed. I like to call these breather episodes, and I think it was the perfect point in the season to have a little breather. And just,
Mhm.
I think it did a good job. We had some good character growth this episode, and it see the kind of way their new responsibilities are affecting uh our our cast and affecting their relationship. And so I think that that was a is a good way to keep things have some sort of overall growth in the breather episode without having to engage with the overall plot season arc, but keep the character growth going. But
Yeah, for
also
sure.
cleverly frame the anthology itself.
Yeah, let's go
Uh,
to some comments here. So the writers apparently Daniel Vance says the writers of Strange New Worlds have returned to work through though the actors are still on strike. I thought everything was resolved. Okay.
just with the writers, unfortunately.
Starfleet Academy series will take place in Discovery 32nd century and have a low deck style sense of humor. Now, it concerns me just a tad here and there because, like, animation is one thing, but live action. I know people will say that we had the live action lower decks humor with the crossover episode, but that was a crossover episode, and it didn't. It was more to do with character interactions than the overall or silliness that you get in lower decks. Um, we'll see how it goes. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm rooting for it. I am rooting for it. I want it to do well. So, hello, fellow persons in waiting. Hello, Daniel Vance, and some nice things to say for you, Mage. Now the award-winning host, yes, of
That's-
NerdTube. Okay,
And
sorry.
and the superstar viewer of NerdTube in the house. It's always great to have you here, Daniel Vance. We got hello other viewers as well. Um, so what did you? I thought that the framing device, just the overall way they went about setting this whole episode up, was pretty clever. Uh, what did you think about the choice to like cave stories within a cave story? Did you think it
Well,
was clever
sometimes
or just too much?
I'm just glad that they told stories that we haven't seen before because I
Hmm.
have seen this plot device used in other television shows where they'll go down memory lane and we'll see little clips or moments from previous seasons or previous like some special moments which harken back to the character arc of where we are with the characters at this particular moment. But fortunately, we didn't get that. We got very unique stories, which we haven't seen before. With all these characters, all four of our lower decks guys interacting with totally different people, which also made it interesting as well because now they're all like lieutenant, first lieutenant or whatever the hell it's called. So this was like the first time that they all worked together for since they were cadets or ensigns or whatever they were.
Yeah.
So the premises
And
of that was pretty cool.
no, it it makes sense that they're not, as they're moving up the ranks, they're not going to be working only with each other anymore, and I like that they're acknowledging that. I like that we see some of these characters that we've seen Delta shift once or twice before, we've seen Levy before once or twice, but get a little bit more of them, and but original plots instead of doing like a clip show and have them exclusively talk about things from their character interactions in the past. I feel like that was a good way to go. um
Yeah,
what did you think of the I think you enjoyed it, I would imagine, the kind of the theming of them trying to grow apart but not growing apart ultimately. uh,
yeah. I mean, for a start, I mean, what I liked initially was the cliches we have in cave episodes because it's something that I forgot that is so common in Star Trek.
it is one of
You
the
know,
oldest tropes, it really
yeah, and
is.
and and it's only this episode that really brought it to light that I never really thought about it before. If you know what I mean.
Like
And
every
so it got
Star
something
Trek
stuck in my tooth.
series has like that quintessential cave episode. The original series has many. The first one that comes to my mind is the salt monster episode.
Oh yeah,
One of
cave
the early,
episodes. Yeah,
they're just
yeah.
classic. Enterprise had the everybody thinks T'Pol's working with rock monsters cave episode where they're tripping on like spores flowing through the wind in the valley. Uh just great classic, one of the show's oldest tropes. But I feel like but we ostensibly end up with four plots due to the fact that the framing device has its own conflict and then a resolution to the plot. Do you
I
feel
give
like
it
it was too
credit though.
much?
Well, I give it credit that they're able to. I mean, the show itself, the episode itself, was only like 25 minutes long, and for them to start an episode and then somehow fit four mini stories and then conclude the episode, it's like wow, they did a great job. Like
They
they did.
did.
They started, like they start an episode, have the four mini stories, then have little mini intervals between the stories before they go into the next one. I mean, they compress quite a lot in that space of time. So I have to commend them for being the writers and all of that to pull it off in such a clever way.
No,
So yeah, and as I said before, like this was a more self-contained. I did like Mariner has this look, by the way, like this sort of like squinty-eyed look when like the cliche
yeah,
happens, and
yeah,
the
that
cliche
her
kind of
eyes are
happened like
half opened, and then
yeah, like okay, yeah.
the lights go off and Boimler makes the same eyes. Cave missions.
Yeah, cave, well, cave missions or something always fucks up in cave missions. You can't have a cave mission without shit going, shit hitting the fan,
Hmm.
and that cliche happened again. And Mariner has that look like, okay, yeah, I told you so, whatever. But I like the fact that it's not necessarily like a panic look. It's more like, oh, I told you so, look.
Yeah, it's like
Because
here it
it
is.
happens all the
I knew,
time. Yeah,
knew it was coming.
yeah, and I like the fact that Trek is, instead of throwing a serious sort of vibe about it, it's like this is just happens all the bloody time, and I like the fact that they went down that route instead, and the fact that they are trapped in a cave, I wouldn't worry too much because it's not like Starfleet's going to forget about them. So they know they're going to get rescued at some particular point.
Yeah, I love
In
that
this,
they treat
yeah,
it. It's just a mild inconvenience,
yeah,
but it's an
exactly,
inconvenience that Mariner expected. I think there was this line as like a third of all of our missions happen in caves. I wonder if
yeah.
that number, if they just pulled it out of thin air, or if like we have an actual like number of episodes where the away mission goes down in a cave or ends up into a cave. I
Well,
wouldn't be surprised if it was a third of all episodes like that have an away mission part.
I look at it like this, like the fact that they had to show us snippets of things that haven't been in episodes, but they put it in this episode, kind of shows that they have done stuff which haven't been broadcasted as an episode. So that's how I look at it, if you know what
Right.
I mean. Off
Yeah.
screen stuff, which is kind of we got a tidbit of today. And once again, very very clever writing in how everything was done. Very funny at the same time, very sweet. Yeah, it was it put a smile on my face. This was a lovely episode. I think there's a lot of no, I wouldn't say necessarily doom and gloom, but like the camaraderie was there with this episode. It really
It
was.
it was nice
And
to
so
have all four together again and
yeah,
just that kind of that ensemble feel. The strength and tight knitness of that group is part of the charm of the show.
and we saw pretty much nobody else, but there is one person I feel is kind of missing recently, and
And
it's
I
that
think I know who you're going to say.
is it Tian TL or what the fuck her name is?
Miss Talin, our
Tillin,
new
yeah.
Vulcan crew member.
Like, yeah, she's done a vanishing act recently, so I don't expect. Look, it would make no sense for her to necessarily be with this contingent on this particular episode. But considering we haven't seen her in a while, it almost feels like okay, if she did miss this episode, it would be forgiven. But we didn't see it last week or maybe the week before, so where
Right.
the fuck is she? You know what I mean?
And it seemed it sticks out like that because of the fact that they did it so many weeks in a row. She was in every episode.
Okay, we've got a resident fascist here. Rick B is crap. Get rid of Alex Kurtzman. Rick B, have you seen today's episode? It was very good. Uh, I think. By the way, sorry, what? Sorry, let me get to some of these other stuff.
Absolutely.
I don't. I didn't check to be sure, but I swear I swear the hallway in the cave or the first two stories were the same. Just after the joke, all caves do look the same. Yeah, they all look the same. If you play
Say,
No Man's Sky, they all look the same in that as well. But
oh my God, they
Vendorians
do.
falsified the data that damages subspace TNG Force Nature, which led to the creation of Voyager's moving nacelles. Okay, I'm a bit confused by all of that, but all right,
Oh, there's
fair
the
enough.
episode in TNG where the scientist discovers that warp fields are disturbing subspace and they set like a warp speed limit. It's never
Okay,
really addressed much down the line, and it's one of those
well
minor
they've
irks
gone
come
like
with that.
what's the warp speed
They,
limit? Because I swear they've like gone like 9.5 and shit like that. So
yeah,
see, they
yeah,
dig
they
themselves
totally
into a hole,
forgot about.
don't they?
Oh yeah, they totally backed themselves in a corner on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to say, regarding some of the episodes, sorry, some of the stories we told, I knew like with the first story with Boimler and that lieutenant guy, I
Well,
knew that his his conspiracy theory would turn out to be true.
yeah, it's so it was the
Yeah.
joke writes itself for him to be actually right somehow inexplicably, and it's like great, he's this nuts right about something.
It reminded me of the episode of Enterprise where the Andorians are claiming that the Vulcans have this sort of special, um,
The listening station at Pajim.
yeah, yeah, within this was it within this meteorite or something like that? I can't remember. on this planet or something along those lines. But they had this sort of space station within the space station, and the Andorians came across as paranoid, conspiracy theorist dickheads. But they were right, and the Vulcans actually lied about it. The one thing Vulcans are not supposed to do. So it reminded me of that moment. That's the first thing I thought of, when that lieutenant's conspiracy tended to be correct, and even himself, he was, because he's so full of shit, as far as he's concerned, he was surprised that his bullshit was true, and I like that as well. So
I thought of you as every time they took a dig at conspiracy theorists, I'm like, oh, Zam's got to be loving this.
yeah, I did.
It's such a great line. Your knowledge is blended with hyperbole and fiction. Like, oh my god, that's the thing. People buy into it because there's just enough truth peppered into the ridiculousness.
Yeah, but like I said, it just makes me laugh that even he kind of realized, whoa, this is for real. I mean, I just, you almost think they're almost like sociopathic, that they just come up with all this shit for the sake of it. And then when they realize, oh no, it's actually real, that they're more surprised than anybody else. So that's what I found very amusing as well. It's like it's almost like these conspiracy theorists personally know that they're full of shit. So yeah.
Deep down they do. I like how
Yeah.
there was a very strong implication that he's a very xenophobic character as well, like the paranoia about the Vendorians and such.
Which is why he hasn't been promoted. Which is why he hasn't been promoted in a long time. And if you don't get promoted, you're wearing the blue uniform. Remember that.
I see it here. I thought it was just a science thing.
Yeah. Well, it feels like that's the case recently. I mean, I remember back of that episode of TNG where Picard doesn't get stabbed in the heart and he ends up being a science officer in the blue uniform.
That's a great episode.
So
shades of that for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
The temple you're talking about is the Pajem Temple in Enterprise, which is one of the greatest episodes of Enterprise, I think, of all time.
See, I think he's talking about a different episode. Well,
no, the Andorians knew that there was a listening post.
Yeah.
Was
there at the with Pajem is the monastery? Was there a separate time when there was something about a meteorite? Because Zam's got the.
I thought it was a meteorite. No, was it on Vulcan?
It's on a monastery.
Pajem Monastery was close to the Andorian Vulcan border, and the Andorian said, "Hey, we know there's a listening post here," and the Vulcans are like, "No, there's not. These are ancient, like sacred ground. We can't do that." And then it turned out that the Andorians were right, and Archer's like, "Fuck you guys, take your pictures."
I love that. I love that episode.
It's one of the greatest episodes because it shows a chink in the Vulcan armor. And I'm sorry, I like Vulcans, but not all Vulcans are good. You know what I mean? Like that.
The fact that Enterprise love to show that there's nuance and shades of gray in everything, I think is one of its best aspects.
Well, we saw a Vulcan gangster in bloody Picard.
Mm-hmm.
Which I loved. Absolutely loved that.
Tuvok was technically a Maquis in the Mirror Universe. So I mean, you know what I mean? Or not a Maquis, a resistance. What is it? Not a resistance. A Terran force.
Yeah.
Person.
And we saw evil. We saw evil Spock in the original series in the Terran universe as well. So you have a beard, evil. In Star Trek universe, unless you're Riker, of course. So
I still think Riker's from the Mirror Universe. I think the original Riker was just a pansy, and in between seasons 1 and season
so horny.
Yeah, and in between season 1 and 2, there was another transporter accident, and it put babyface Riker in the Mirror Universe, and then horny scruffy
Riker,
Hornmeister scruffy Will Riker into the main universe. I'm telling you, Lord, they think Lorca is the biggest twist of the Mirror Universe. It's Riker.
When he shaved his beard, though, man, you know he regretted it. He fucking grew that thing back ASAP.
Mhm. Well, I mean that was his own call too, wasn't it? I wasn't that he was the director of that movie, so he did that. He chose to do that. I think.
He might have been director, but if it's in the script and if the producers are telling him shave your fucking beard, it's all right. I gotta shave my fucking beard then. So, but
Anyway,
nevertheless, don't get me wrong. I mean, it was actually good to see him clean shaven just for that brief moment, just to remind you what what he once looked like. So, but yeah, I also I did like the the Rutherford story too, where
Okay,
he
you want to move
gave
on to that one?
because he gave birth to the person who died with it who died, and he's very lucky that he had the doctor with him of all the people he could have done the away mission with. And once again, it was quite a sweet
That
moment
was an interesting pairing.
that he ended up using the universal translator to communicate with the monster so that they could understand each other and not try to kill each other, because there was a misunderstanding.
I don't think they
She
used
thought,
the universal translator. I think he had to figure out the sounds because
oh yeah, no, I know what you mean, but I mean he just basically did a little tweak on the tricorder and
Mhm.
made sure that he was able to, but in that sense, so
Yep.
and
One
it's
of
just
many
genius.
times. Yep, Rutherford
Yeah,
always looking for the way to think his way out of the situation and avoid violence. It's like the Mungato's episode where the Ferengi were poaching on that planet, and
yeah.
Rutherford's the mastermind of the plan to like haggle with them, basically, like in
And
their board game.
what we're kind of getting at is kind of like the themes of each of those little mini stories, because they kind of reflect the person that is happening to. Yeah, so with what will happen with Boimler, and the conspiracy theorist, where Boimler thinks he kind of knows everything, but in a way he can come across as wrong sometimes. When
And
he gets a bit too much on his plate, so to speak. Um,
Boimler, he's awkward because he's always trying to avoid being like rude or something in a social situation. He's always scared about how he's going to be in a social
yeah,
situation, but then he totally sticks his foot into it when he finally does just like say exactly what he means. He sticks his foot in it big time, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
as
With
somebody
them,
who's
yeah.
has that fear that Boimler has, that's the exact thing I'm afraid of happening is that I'm going to really muck it up, and that's what happens every time I go into a social situation without thinking about it.
Well, exactly. Because the moment he thought, fuck this, I'm going to have a go at this guy and tell him exactly how I feel. That's when he had egg on his face and realized that this guy was right all along, and that's typical Boimler. And then obviously what happened with Rutherford is typical Rutherford. Then we had what happened with Mariner. When they're getting old to try and get this mineral to help them escape, and then there was actually an alternative way to do it. And in the meantime, some guy loses his leg because he's a bit younger, and they thought that they could get him to get to the mineral quicker. And then they realized that there was an alternative mineral. So the same minerals there, but they were aging younger and all of that. That's just typical fucking Mariner. And then finally, with Tindy in her, and then her and everyone else just being stuck in the turbo lift, having laughs and jokes and playing games and just being all friendly and lovey dovey, that was typical Tindy. Like it was. It all every story had a reflection of who these characters were, and I also like the fact that the green alien ooze that was trying to eat them all wanted to hear Tindy's story. Like, yes, that made me laugh so fucking
The
much.
boss likes
Yeah,
the green
yeah,
one. I
yeah. I want to hear the green one story. Yeah, it's like great. Yeah, me too. Actually, hello,
no
Jelly Deals. Yeah.
welcome, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. And Daniel Vance thought of the exact same thing I thought of when Rutherford got pregnant.
mm-hmm.
I hate to break it to you that Daniel Vance is saying to us, but this is the mirror universe. It blows your mind to know how good things could be. Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say a mirror universe. I would say a parallel universe, because I think the mirror universe made us believe that there's only two universes: the Star Trek universe and then this alternative one where everyone's evil. But what we've come to realize, especially in that episode where Worf was in this competition and we saw alternative versions of the Enterprise near the end, and he ended up being first place because you remember that episode.
Yeah.
With the trophy and stuff like that. And then we realized, so there's loads of fucking parallel universes. This is just one of them. Not the first male pregnancy we've seen in Star Trek. That honor belongs to Tip Trucker. I can't remember that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, if Trip
But okay.
gets knocked up, he's the first member of Starfleet to have somehow reproduce with a member of an alien species, and everybody gives him a hard time, like acts like he was pulling a Riker. He
Okay.
put his hands in these
Marbles, yeah, like rock marbles,
jelly rock marble things with this alien, and she didn't tell him anything about it. It's like, yeah, this is this thing we do that lets us be close to each other, and she knocks him
up. Brilliant.
It was like,
yeah,
people give Trip this like thing, like, oh yeah, Trip's he's just Southern Riker. He's so horny. It's like he liked T'Pol. There was that one episode where he had tension with that princess.
No, but he had that alien, that alien princess when they were stranded on that planet.
There's that episode.
And like, I knew they were gonna start banging
every episode.
Yeah. Of course they were gonna. She was fucking hot, man. You know what I mean? And he's a good-looking guy. Of course they were gonna start banging. Yeah. So yeah, that was typical. I mean, yeah, there's always a Casanova, in my opinion. Maybe not necessarily on Voyager. Possibly.
Tom.
Who?
Tom's the alleged playboy type on Voyager.
Yeah, but he settled down with B'Elanna very quickly, didn't he?
That was like season 5. That whole thing started. Maybe.
No, I thought it was more like season 3 or 4. I thought
maybe 4, but it wasn't as early as you would think.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I mean, I think they foreshadowed it in one of the episodes.
So, but yeah, I mean, he's more of a he's more of a rebel without a cause, if anything, than necessarily a playboy. He's a bit of a loose cannon, but he obviously steadied himself whilst he was on Voyager, which was his arc. That he became more sensible and more responsible. So.
Season 4. It doesn't say what episode, but it says season 4's Day of Honor marks the official beginning of their relationship. They do lay the groundwork in season 3 when like B'Elanna's like super horny or whatever, called Blood Fever, and she's going after Tom. But
yeah, that's because she had the Pon Farr thing going on with her through the Vulcan engineer who wants to.
But yeah, they laid the groundwork there for basically. But yeah, they actually became a couple. They said in season 4, season 4, Day of Honor.
Good to know. And
so
we're right.
I love being right.
But before you came on, what we were saying is that this was probably like the feel-good episode of the season, with how everything panned out. So with only 2 episodes left, and we didn't see this alien entity going around killing all these other aliens, like Ferengis and God knows what. They're going to probably make a comeback next week.
Well, next week is the penultimate episode. I'm pretty sure things are going to pick up.
Yeah, so it's probably end up being a 2-parter next week.
Maybe.
Possibly. But I would like to not end this season with a cliffhanger. It would be nice to have resolution and start. Sometimes I don't mind cliffhanger endings for a season. Other times I do like to maybe start afresh or know that, okay, fine, things have ended this particular way. So in a way, the following season has to begin this way now. Like maybe people are getting promoted or somebody's retired. So somebody else now is going to be next season going to be in charge, something along those lines, to make us look forward to the following season, like a new alliance has been made, something that makes next season look interesting in that sense, without necessarily being a cliffhanger ending. So I'm hoping that with this alien being that is being pretty much prominent throughout this entire season, that they resolve it this season as well. I wouldn't want it to linger on to season 5. That'll piss me off. Yeah.
I don't think it will. I think they'll resolve it.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chia, you joined us, and what you got to say about this episode?
Thoughts?
I mean, I was just waiting for you guys to, whatever. This was definitely the feel good episode. I liked it. It's a more of a return to form to classic Lower Decks, like season 1, season 2, where they just basically take a trope based on Star Trek and they just kind of parody it, like out the wazoo. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, they basically were ripping on the fact that, they use all the same cave settings from like all, for like all the different, shows and episodes. Like the caves all look the same and they're flat, and which we know caves are not exactly flat. Like, like it's just, Lower Decks taking the piss out of, old janky sets and models and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I mean, is it something to like scream home about? No, but it was, as you said, a feel good episode. Again, I think it's more of a filler episode, but I think it's filler in a good way. Like we finally get our characters back. Again, no T'Lyn, right? That's her name, T'Lyn.
Yeah, we said that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, no T'Lyn again, which I don't understand. Like, I mean, they in the first half of this season, they were really pushing her as like joining the group, and we have not seen her for at least 3 weeks, at the very least.
I want to ask you, but this is something I only kind of really came to the realization of once I watched this episode, that caves are a common trope in Star Trek. And it wasn't until this episode made me realize it was a trope that I didn't realize it was a trope. Were you the same?
I mean,
do you think there's of course, caves? How come I never realized that before?
Yeah. No, I mean, I've always thought about that. Like all of the sets and backgrounds and everything, they always look the same. Like when they're in a cave, it always looks like almost the same cave. Almost. I think they're like DS9 had a pretty varied set design when it came to caves, but that's because what's his name, the guy who did DS9, Purple Beard, why am I forgetting his name, or Bluebeard?
What? Purple Beard, Bluebeard?
The guy who, what is his name? I'm gonna kick myself on it. Anyway, so he was very, very. I know Daniel Vance knows who I'm talking about. What is his freaking name?
I need to search for this guy.
Yeah,
I was going to read one of his comments, by the way. Daniel Vance says the main plot is about 10 minutes long so far. I hate to see them do it, but there's nothing Starfleet can solve in 30 minutes. Oh, a bit of editing, they can solve anything, dude. Every production has a cave. Ready to use and save costs.
Oh, why is his name not on here? Son of a bitch.
Jelly Deal says centuries of technology progression is no match for a bunch of rocks. Was my fave. Mage knows I make fun of their corns. Oh, their comms. Sorry. The M looked like an R and an S for some reason.
Does look like R and an S.
Ira Stephen Bear. Got it.
Their comms just not working because... Okay, let me read that again. Centuries of technology progression is no match for a bunch of rocks. Was my fave. Mage knows I make fun of their comms just not working because, you would think they'll be able to beam them out and stuff. Yeah, it is like that. It's amazing. They go into caves, their comms don't work, bad communication, unable to beam them out because of some sort of seismic radioactivity bullshit. It's always the fucking same.
Yeah. And that's as I said, that's what I loved about this episode, because they basically just parodied all of it. And I like it. Stephen Iron Bear, Ira Steven Bear. Basically, Ira Steven Bear. He was the guy who was very, very adamant about changing the settings on certain things, like changing the caves. They had to look different. They couldn't be just the same caves over and over again, like on TNG. Like he wanted a stark difference between, because he didn't want all the planets to look the same. Which you have to, if you watch DS9. This guy expected me to pull Ira Steven Bear out of my butt on the hint. Blue beard, purple beard. Yeah. Dude, that is like
you're our hero, Daniel Vance. Come on.
I'm sorry. Like, hold on. I'm gonna bring a picture up of this guy. This is the only guy in the universe who I know who has a blue freaking beard. Hold on, I'm bringing him up now. But yeah, I do like the fact that he just. All right, Zam, can you throw that up there really quick? I mean, I'm sorry. Like, this is pretty distinct. Come on, like
what the hell?
That's him. He's always got some.
Like
he's always
Boimler's hair.
I've never seen this guy before, but he looks blind.
You have never seen this guy before? Have either of you watched the What We Left Behind, the DS9 special?
Purple beard. How the fuck would I not remember this person? Look at those glasses as well.
He was a producer through all of DS9.
He looks like fucking Hugo Strange in the multiverse.
Well,
sorry?
He is the reason why DS9 was so good.
Okay, well.
Anyway.
Yeah,
so.
Well, weird looking dude.
But I thought this episode was really good. Good filler, good, bouncing between them. I really enjoyed the fact that we didn't see too many of the main cast. I mean, yeah, we did see Shax for a moment. We had the memory with Ta'ana, right? Ta'ana, the doc.
Yeah.
So she was pretty involved in that. But other than that, I mean, yeah, we didn't see Ransom. We didn't see Captain Freeman. We didn't see. I don't think we saw Billups or anybody like that. So yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
We didn't see that.
The Doctor really got. You mentioned Shax. Even Shax was fuck all. Just the Doctor, really. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even then she was only for a minute or two. Hello.
And no damn Mr. Birdie Man that I hate. What Mr. Wiggly Moo or whatever his name is.
Dr. Miggly Mo.
Mr. Wiggly Moo.
I hate that dude so much. I'm so glad he wasn't in this episode. Anyway, that's my overall thoughts. Good episode.
Nice. I agree. A good filler episode for sure, or a breather episode. But you brought up the Mariner and Delta Shift story, Zam. That one felt rushed to me. Did you guys feel like each of these stories had time to shine with there being 4 of them in the episode, or I feel like the premise of that one is like good enough. I feel like it could be its own episode, or like the A or B plot of an AB runner type episode, like time moving differently in different areas of the cave.
I think I'm glad it was the way it was, because if we just found out that later on there was, to resolve the issue, that there was another part of the cave where they could have aged backwards, I would have been pissed off. So if they made a whole episode out of that, so to a degree, I'm glad it was what it was. I think for me, it was more the relationship with Delta Squad. And there's still that bitterness there to a degree. I thought it was kind of resolved because, Delta Squad looked up to Beta Squad, because they get into all the adventures and stuff like that. But what it was in this particular occasion was that Delta Squad doesn't get the credit they deserve because everyone's sleeping. And I thought that in itself was funny more than the aging stuff, if you know what I mean. The aging stuff was clever to a degree. It was clever to a degree, but it reminded me of that movie where they age on that island and stuff like that. You can tell where they're getting their tropes from.
I mean, I honestly would have loved to have found out that Mariner told that story completely different than how it actually happened. You know what I mean? Like Mariner's like making it seem a lot more like she was more of a leader than she actually was. Like, I just feel like that would have been a Mariner thing to kind of like not lie, but just like, she's, they're like,
Embellish.
yeah, embellish a little bit, and they're just like, no, like she was not the one who, like, she was, actually I'm the one who kept on going, and she didn't want me to go because, or Mariner didn't want me to go because she wanted to be, she wanted to be the one to save us, not because she outranked me. Like, it was more of a competitive thing, not a I'm the leader of the squad thing. So
yeah, I agree. But I once again, I did think that episode was the sort of, so that moment, that their scenario was very much based around who Marin is as a character. Every scenario was, it all felt very much based around their personalities and how they resolved it, or the situations that got themselves into that problem in the first place, or things like that. So yeah, it was very, it's even for a filler, I thought this episode was very cleverly done, and it's those nuances and subtleties as Star Trek fans that you can pick up on that really makes you appreciate it more than I think regular people would, for sure.
No, I didn't. You have a very good point about how each of the stories is very much like that character. And I think what Daniel Vance said in the chat kind of really ties into that. Like Mariner rushes everything. Like
Yeah,
they only, Asif only had his leg fall off because Mariner rushes headfirst into everything and didn't notice that there was the other area of the cave.
yeah.
So, but no, that's a really good catch. That I kind of didn't catch that subtlety, but that's a really good catch, Sam. And
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up because that adds a different layer to it. Makes me appreciate it a little more. But I feel like this episode could have been better than what it was, though.
What did you guys think of? What did you guys think of the very end where the Vendorians, is that who they are? They're from the animated
Vendorian.
series.
Yeah.
When it turned out they were doing another test. Yeah. I don't know how I felt. I was a bit 50-50 on that, to tell you the truth.
I thought it was kind of dumb, but I let it go.
Yeah.
The rest of the episode was good enough. I was like, okay, whatever. But I don't know. I kind of thought it was dumb that they went back to that trope because, I don't know. Because why were they there? Because Blumler, Blumler almost got them killed when he did his, in his scenario with them, and then I don't know.
Well,
it's one of those very cartoony moments. Like the joke, they're there just to make the joke, and they're you kind of have to just hand wave it and not think about it very hard. This whole episode makes me think of one of the episodes of the Clerks animated series where they did a flashback episode, but they did it for their second series. Yeah, they did a.
We're talking Kevin Smith Clerks, yeah.
Kevin Smith Clerks with Dante and Randall and Jay and Silent Bob on ABC.
Okay.
Yeah, so they couldn't swear. Jay and Silent Bob barely smoke. They didn't air the episode where they said bong. They just straight up.
Damn, it just sounds absolutely. If that's
it lasted 2 episodes.
Yeah,
they made 6. ABC aired 2.
I heard Clerks 3. Have you seen that, by the way?
I have
the third one.
I haven't been able to.
I was a bit concerned it was going to be shit, but I heard it's not that bad.
See, I was told it was shit.
I've heard that the third one was better than the second one. That's all I heard.
Really?
Maybe I misheard. I don't know. I don't even know if I've watched the Clerks. I've seen clips of the Clerks movies. I don't know if I've actually sat down and watched them. Watched them.
Yeah.
We can do a Clerks watch along with Vance Major.
Yeah.
Hey, that's I keep on saying that's something we can do watch alongs for our Patreon. For me, John Wick. I've never watched a Johon Wick movies. I always told Zam if we sit down. Yeah, if we sit down and we watch,
you need to watch it, man. It's basically John Woo Gung Fu taken to another level. It's glorious action. It really is. Very stylistic, and seeing a man in his 50s who's almost 60 now, doing that level of stunts and maneuvers and moving about the way he does. And the ingenious of the kills and the gun use.
Let's bring it back
You
around.
have to watch it.
We got
Have
I'm
to watch
sorry,
it.
I tangented us pretty
I
hard.
apologize.
Let's bring it
No,
back around.
okay.
Yeah.
Were there any other like particular bits about any of the the 4 plot runners that you guys wanted to talk about? Like anything that particularly
I like the
stood
way
out
I
to you?
like the fact that Tendi wasn't able. She wanted. It was initially when she was about to tell her story. I thought, okay, here we go. We're going to talk about what happened in the past and stuff like that. And then Mariner shuts her up. So then I thought to myself, oh, we're not going there. And then Boimler starts talking about his story, and then we did go there. And then I like the fact that Tendi, he was dying to tell a story, but Mariner was being. I have to admit, Mariner was being a bit of a bitch to her about it. You know what I mean? Mariner, but Tendi
But they're
finally
talking
got
about
to tell it.
caves, not turbo
Yeah.
lifts.
Yeah, I guess. But it's still like this, the premises, in my opinion, was still the same. It's about being trapped. I think that's more than anything.
And her telling her story about getting trapped was the one that ended up getting them untrapped in the end. So maybe if Mariner had just let her talk.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to see Barclay Ogawa. Who's that? Who's that?
Barclay is the Dwight Schultz character.
I know Barclay.
Ogawa was the nurse that worked for Beverly. Alexander is Worf's son.
Alexander Roshenko.
Yeah, but he must be like middle aged by now.
Yeah,
you know
Brian
what I mean?
Bonsall would be, but I've kind of
had at the end
of where's Brian Bonsall at? Like we could do something with Alexander.
Alexander was a young man when we last saw him in DS9. He is without doubt now like a middle aged man by now. You know what I mean? For sure. I mean, DS9 ended like 20 years ago.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Lower Decks takes place only 5 years after Nemesis, right? Is it 5 years? No, it's 2 years after Nemesis, but then we've been through 4 seasons. So if time runs concurrent, we're in season 4. So
how long? Well, what? 10 years? 12 years?
No, like if Lower Decks takes place 2 years after Nemesis, and then there's been 4 seasons, so that's what 6?
4 seasons, 6 years.
Yeah, so it's only been 6 years since Nemesis. Alexander was a young adult when he at the end of TNG. Was it a TNG or was it DS9 when
DS9 we saw him again?
Okay, so So I don't know. I mean, he might be like in his mid-20s at this point. In
mid-20s,
yeah,
I would say in his early 30s if we're going by this case. If he was a young adult in DS9,
like I'm talking like, well, depending on what you mean, like 16, 17, 18. You know what I mean? Like he was young in TNG, and then all of a sudden he shows up in DS9 and he looks much older. So I don't even know if they got the timeline right with him, because I mean, who knows? Did they say he was an adult? Or was he just a young, because who knows? Maturity in the Klingon Empire might be 14. Like, when you can sign up for the military.
He rocketed. Don't get me wrong. He rocketed. He looked like a young man, but
he rocketed more than Goten and Trunks in Superhero.
When he was 18 or 21, he would still be technically an adult. You know what I mean?
But in the Klingon Empire, they probably breed their children to start working and warring like early, like 14, 13, depends on when they reach maturity enough to battle.
Fair enough, but he would definitely be a man. So I would like to see him show. I would like Alexander. Yeah, I would like Alexander to show up in Lower Decks. That's a good one actually. Barclay, I would like Barclay to show up in Lower. Dwight Schultz, he's a voice actor as well. I mean, he's done so much.
I don't think they'll bring Barclay back though. Not with some of the positions the actors had.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I loved Dwight. I mean, just to see him on Star Trek was amazing for me, because this guy was howling mad fucking Murdoch, who was on one of the greatest television shows of all time in the A-Team, and now he's a bit part actor in fucking Star Trek. I just couldn't believe it. It's just crazy, but yeah. he showed his range though. You know, from playing a very energetic, crazy, outgoing guy, and then playing like an introvert. You know, yeah, he showed his range. Um, Ellie the
Give me
Carpenter didn't have an aging problem. Give me Robert England playing Willie from V on a planet of Gorn dressing. This is genius.
and I'm Gorn dressing as humans.
Come on, tell me you guys seen V, please.
The show
Please,
or the movie?
yeah, the series, the 80s version of V, by the way.
I've not
Fuck
seen
the
the '80s
remake.
version of V. I know of it, but I've never watched it.
Basically, all these aliens, they're kind of like the Gorn, you know. They look like humans. They're basically like a reptilian alien, but they give themselves human features, like they like a human skin over their reptile features. So people,
Oh, so they're
think
wearing
good
an Edgar
looking.
suit. Got it.
But they basically come to Earth because they want to eat humans. You know, like you saw them in packaging and stuff like that. You know, it was like, yeah, it
We
was
are a delicacy.
yeah, it was great. V the series was. I used to love that series back in the day. I loved it. You know, it was so ahead of its time. You know, it was,
All right, we ready to
anyways,
rank this bad boy?
yes, do it.
Yeah. Do you have any? Let's get some final thoughts in a ranking. Let's start with you, Zam.
I'm gonna give this episode a 8 out of 10. I mean, it was a very good episode. I don't want to say like it blew me away, but it delivered more than I expected it to, and it made me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and I laughed and I almost cried, and I appreciated some of the isms of Star Trek in this as well, which is very important. What makes this show so great too, because people, as humorous as Voyage and Lower Decks can be, it still retains elements within it that makes it fundamentally Star Trek, and this episode was no different. So, yeah, 8 out of 10.
Okay, excellent. Cheeto.
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 too. As I said, warm and fuzzy, good filler episode. I felt like it was kind of a character building episode of the main crew, which again, I don't feel like we need to have them all together like every single time. I do like the different pairings sometime, and they even mentioned in the episode about, hey, this is the first time we've all been paired together since this year, I think they might have even said this season. I don't know, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, but there was nothing super special about it. There was nothing that progressed the strange alien vessel plot, which I'm okay with. It didn't need to be every episode, so yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay. I originally had a 7 written down, but I didn't catch that point that Zam pointed out about just how that clever way they had each character's story kind of revolve around a very specific to them trait. So I'm going to bump mine up to 8. I agree with you guys. It was really entertaining, but I feel like it's not an instant classic, even though there's like a lot of really good potential there. Like it's a really good framing device, but I just feel like things were a little rushed. But really good breather episode, and I agree. You don't need to have the overarching season plot brought up in every episode. It's good to have a character growth kind of breather episode.
I do want to pose one thing before we rank. Do we feel like this episode would have been better if it had a longer runtime? Like, let's say, like 40
minutes.
This one was like 20 something.
Yeah, this one could have been longer.
I did tell Maze that I was quite impressed how they were able to tell an opening act story with 4 stories within it, with intervals between those 4 stories, as well as a resolution, all in that space of time, and that in itself has to be commended. So,
it was a
well
feat for sure.
Yeah, well done
and
for them being able to pull it off. Yeah.
Even at 7, that would be like average Lower Decks episode. An average Lower Decks episode is better than most TV, period. So a 7 on a Lower Decks episode for me is still a high mark. But I am going to bump it to 8.
And then making sure that everything has meaning and purpose and intertwining and relevance and all of that, to fit all of that in that space of time. It's a lot better episode.
if it had been like 30 or 40 minutes, this one could have been a 9 or 10 though. This could have been one of like the episodes of Lower Decks. I feel like there's so much potential in
I
this
see.
episode.
I don't know what more we can get out of those extra few minutes. I thought we got plenty out of it for what it's worth. But at the same time, this is. At the same time, I can't find myself giving it a higher mark than what I did, and I don't know if I could be able to give it a higher mark. But yeah, our favorite necrophiliac is here as well. Bend over. Welcome to the show, my son. I was going to be
is pretty.
surprised if I
Look
rated
at
this one
Daniel
higher than
Vance's
Medi
rating.
Tate.
That's pretty
Yeah.
high for Daniel Vance, especially on this show, because he has not been
Yeah.
a fan of this show this season.
Not lately.
He
No.
hates Lower Decks more than he hates me.
Well, I don't think he hates Lower Decks. I think
not
he
at all.
hates what this season has become. And as I said, I don't have too much of a problem with what this season has become. But I mean, like, I think Daniel Vance is more wanting those one-off adventures of like a parody, so that's what I think. I mean, Daniel Vance can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, this episode did return to season 1 or 2 form, where it's like they just take a Star Trek element and they parody the hell out of it. And that's what this episode was.
But I feel like it does it like season 1 or 2, they would have felt the need to constantly make those really specific. Oh, it's like that one time that blank and blank were in this cave on blank. But instead, it could just be like they just like rip on the fact that it's a trope and it's pervasive. And I feel like that's better. That's a little better done. I feel like it's harder to do well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mage.
Okay. Well, thanks to everybody who's shown up and joined us in the chat this evening. Thank you for coming out. It's been great having you here. Oh, we got more comments. Nice.
Mr. System's coming out with like the good stuff right now. I'll be honest with you. Like all these people we should be having on Lower Decks. I mean, honestly, like the geekism within me, if someone like Naomi Wildman
would show back up would be awesome. She just rolls up. It's wild in time.
Because she would be like a young adult as well, like
she would be.
I would
have that episode of the future where she was a young lady in Starfleet. I wonder if that would still happen if once they got back to the Alpha Quadrant. See, that would be a good, highly illogical podcast. Like we could talk about who we'd like to see come back in Legacy and in season Lower Decks.
In season 1 of Picard, we saw what's his face. He was killed. Echeb, yeah.
Echeb.
How old was he? Like in Voyager, he was like what? He was just a teenager.
He was 17. He was.
Yeah.
He was almost an adult, I think. Like, well,
so he would have been a young man. But Picard is set like way ahead, isn't it? So
30 years.
It's
he'd be middle aged.
1 for 1.
Well, yeah, no, it's not. It's I think technically Picard came out 25 years after, or 20, but Picard, the show is set. I think it's set specifically 30 years after the end of TNG or after the end of Voyager or something like that, or after the end of Nemesis. I'd have to look at the dates, but we're going to need some highly illogical podcast topics because I think after Lower Decks is done, I don't think we're getting Discovery for a bit. So if we're going to keep doing some Star Trek, discussions and topics every Thursday, we're going to need some topics to talk about every week. So
when's Discovery coming out?
We don't have a date. What was it? Early 2024, I think. Late 2024.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's off. That's what I'm saying. Like we're not going to have some Trek for a while. The Paramount Plus is losing my subscription for a bit. So.
Watch Yellowstone.
I'm not watching Yellowstone.
We do talk about a wide variety of stuff here, from stuff like Yellowstone to Star Trek. We talk Star Wars. Got Friday night general podcast coming up. The World's Gone Insane. Let's talk about it, where we discuss current events and entertainment. And
I will be talking about a little bit of Spider-Man 2 on that because I will be able to play that game. Yeah, but actually, fun enough, I can start playing that game now. I'm really pissed off. If you're a massive YouTuber, you can start playing that game 2 or 3 days ago. I was limited to playing that game until half an hour ago because at midnight UK time, that's when the game is released for me. So tomorrow at some point, I'm going to play a little bit. and I'm going to let you guys. I'm going to tell you guys what I think about it in tomorrow's podcast, as well as obviously talking about the current event in news and stuff like that, which I'm not going to go into this time around. Just watch the show and let us know.
Show tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, correct?
Yeah, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. UK. Paramount is working hard to greenlight the new Trek movie right now to get more. Well, the new Trek movie is the one with Michelle Yeoh. Is that the one?
Michelle Yeoh, yeah, the Section 31 one.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that's going to feel like a glorified television movie. If it might feel like that, I wouldn't mind, to tell you the truth, as long as it's done well. And someone like Michelle Yeoh leading the way means that it won't feel cheap by the acting. But it's Star Trek 4, so yuck.
So just so you know, here the TNG ended in 2370, and Picard takes place in 2399, I believe. Hold on, I'm scrolling down here for it. I'm looking at the timeline here.
29 years later.
That's what I'm saying. It is 29 years later. Technically, it takes place 19 years, or I'm sorry, 20 years after Nemesis.
Or Picard season 3 or Picard season 1?
Picard season 1. It takes place 20 years after Nemesis. 19 years after the end of TNG, because Star Trek Picard takes place in 2399.
That's Picard season 1.
Yes, Picard season 1.
Picard season 3 would be like what?
It was 2302. Yeah, it was 2402 or no 2401. I think they said it in the series. It was 2401. Picard season 2 took place in 2400. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Being the man in the chair. So lots of different stuff we talk about here on NerdTube. So definitely, if you're not subscribed yet, you should definitely hit the subscribe
Gen V,
button.
by the way.
That's right. We've been talking about Gen V, the show set in the universe of The Boys.
And just so you guys know, I will be getting back on Quantum Leap. I've missed a couple of episodes. I know, I do apologize, but we do so much here at NerdTube that I can't fit everything around. And I promise you, I'll get onto Quantum Leap. I might
or just do a series recap or a mid-season recap or something like that. I mean,
no, I definitely want to
do everything, Sam.
I definitely want to get back on episodes on that for sure. But I promise you, I'll get back on that.
So yeah, lots of stuff to check out. So definitely want to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get all our notifications so you don't miss any of the content, the variety of stuff we talk about here on YouTube. We've got the poll going for the best tag teams in the worlds of sports entertainment, correct, Cheeto?
Yes, we do. And what happens is whichever team wins, I've already talked with some of the Wrestleheads, whichever team wins this tournament will get a deep dive podcast by the Wrestleheads.
So lovely.
So vote in that so you can determine who you get the deep dive on. It's always a pleasure to see the Wrestleheads like really get into it when they're talking about what they talk about. The passion is unparalleled. So that's definitely something you want to check out. But thanks to everybody who's joined us in chat. Thanks to everybody who's viewing. Thanks to you come down the line and watch on the VOD. You have been watching NerdTube, the best channel that you've kind of sort of maybe heard of. Thank you to my co-host, Cadet Zam, and Lieutenant Junior Grade Cousin Cheeto. I would not be a NerdTube review without you guys, and I appreciate you being here and letting me run my mouth.
Thank you.
We love letting you run your mouth.
Run it.
Run it. So I'm going to run it by saying good night. Live long and prosper.
Bye.